The TMJ-TMD conundrum is real and has been puzzling the dental and medical professions for decades. This is the TMJ-TMD Demystified podcast with Dr. Tony Urbanic, where we'll connect the dots between TMD symptoms and the actual cause. We'll tackle common TMD misconceptions and educate you, the practitioner, about a simple, tested, and proven TMD solution that has already provided relief to thousands of patients, while helping practitioners build an additional source of income free from insurance control. Welcome to this episode of the TMJ-TMD Demystified podcast.
Hello, TMD warriors. Hello to you all, wherever you may be. We are gathered here for the next episode of TMD Demystified, and I am Tony Urbanic. Today, our title and topic will be TMD is an orphan disease. TMD is an orphan disease, and that is a true statement. We need to define what an orphan disease is, but TMD has been orphaned by the dental establishment, by the dental profession. There have been some attempts to bring it into the fold. I would classify them as actually very half-hearted attempts. I have commented on that several times. The first one that came to mind was the attempt to bring a significant number of knowledgeable, very smart researchers together in Washington, D.C. about, it's almost 4 years ago now, to discuss temporomandibular joint as it is a concept and why it hasn't been addressed like other medical issues. And basically nothing of value has come from that meeting at the National Academy of Engineering and Medicine. Nothing of value has come from it. That was 4 years ago, other than they wrote up a big write-up in a book regarding the thoughts that came out of that meeting. But that is not what we do here. We actually solve the problem and disseminate the solution and bring a true value to potential patients who have this problem. But as I've talked about many times before, I have recently become a fan of Dr. Robert Pearl and his books. He has more than one. This is his first book. Several times I've mentioned this before. And again, I would recommend anyone who would like a truthful, a very truthful and factual read on what our current healthcare system has been doing and the situation we are in with our current healthcare system, overall healthcare, meaning primarily medical. Medical is like 95% of our healthcare system, dental only being a very small subset of, quote, medical, quote, dental, quote, medical, which brings us to the concept of, the current medical dental integration that's going on. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So Dr. Pearl, in his wisdom and experience as the chief medical officer and CEO of Kaiser Permanente for 9 years and running 10,000 doctors, wrote 2 books, this is being the first one, which I've mentioned before, titled Why We Think We're Getting Good Health Care and Why We're Usually Wrong, titled the book. And it's an easy read, and he brings out the facts of our current healthcare system. He doesn't sugarcoat anything. And he addresses and suggests solutions, but the point is he tells it like it is. And that is what I like to do. That is what I prefer to do. That is hopefully how you take what I speak on and what I talk about as it relates to TMD. But in his book, this title, he talks about sepsis, which is nothing more, nothing less than infection of the body for various reasons, uh, various causes of infection, as being an orphan disease in medicine. And then he explains what he means by orphan disease. And in regard to sepsis, he describes it like this. It's like, every every medical specialist, cardiologist, orthopedic surgeon, pulmonologist, uh, cancer doctor, even general surgeons, especially general surgeons, deal with sepsis caused by things going on in their particular area. Say general surgeons, appendectomy that gets, an appendix that ruptures and spews bacteria inside within the gut. You end up with sepsis, and then if you end up with sepsis, you die. Sepsis associated with pulmonary disease, sepsis associated with various kinds of diseases that are focused on those diseases by specialists. But when that specialist or that medical doctor who's working in a particular area, if he recognizes that the patient is becoming septic, he refers or tries to refer that problem onto a set of doctors who just focus on sepsis. And in so doing, they basically telegraph that, they really don't want anything to do with sepsis. It's a orphan in their books, and they don't want anything to do with sepsis. Well, that particular thought process goes on in dentistry when it comes to TMD. There is no better example of an orphan dental problem than TMD. We have doctors of dentistry who focus on, their day-to-day interest in periodontal disease, in caryology, in crown and bridge, or now more than ever, implant reconstruction of various kinds. And it's becoming more and more focused on these areas. But when it comes to patient complaining of pain, that they even believe might be associated with the temporomandibular joint, they don't want anything to do with it. It's an orphan disease when it comes to general dentists. Now, there's a new specialty in dentistry, facial pain specialists. As I've been told and as I understand, there's only roughly 500 of those in the United States of America, as opposed to over 200,000 dentists. So there are 500, quote, facial pain specialists and 200,000 dentists. These are active dentists within the United States of America. And those 200,000 dentists are daily, or almost daily, certainly weekly, faced with a patient that comes in, if they have an active practice, and comes in and complains of pain that is not tooth-related. And sometimes they have a difficulty defining whether the pain itself is coming from the tooth or the pain is coming from somewhere else. But we certainly know, can be proven factually, that a huge amount of facial pain is generated by inflammation within the temporomandibular joint, and facial pains of different varieties. It isn't just like one facial pain. It isn't pain directly over the joint. It's pain generated by the inflammation within a temporal joint that comes across to the patient as various symptoms, which include headache, pain of the head, earache, pain of the ear, neck, back, upper back, and shoulder pain, tinnitus, subjective hearing loss, um, vertigo, and even arm, hand, finger tingling and numbness. And those painful symptoms are generated by inflammation within the temporomandibular joint, quite frankly, and quite often misdiagnosed by both medical and dental practitioners and providers. But if they do recognize it, don't want anything to do, don't want to tackle, don't want to know anything about temporomandibular joint disease, which is really the title of last week's episode, which was willful ignorance. But this is just a further elaboration of willful ignorance and the definition of TMD becoming an orphan disease, or actually not becoming, it has been an orphan disease for the past 70 years. But the dentists need to take responsibility for the problem because they see these patients. And the fact that that they don't want to is based on lots of issues. Discuss that also. You know, the issues that it's a complicated problem, which it's not when you actually understand it. There are doctors that want to make it complicated. There are dentists, some of those 500 dentists out there with facial pain credentials want to make it as complicated as possible. I've talked about that. Whether or not they're effective or not is not the issue. They definitely want to make it complicated. The dentists that feel they don't want to get married to the patient because they've seen over the past in their past career that these TMD patients just keep coming back because whatever they offer them doesn't work, which is primarily a night guard. We talked about, you know, half the dentists use a night guard and half the dentists say, no, I don't want anything to do with it. That's the nature. And then you got 500 facial pain specialists out there now who want to make it complicated. That's the nature of it. And that's why I admire Dr. Pearl so much. I've never met the man. I hope someday I will. But he tells it like it is. He doesn't sugarcoat what's going on and what has gone on in medicine. He tells it in a way that's palatable to read, uses lots of examples, but very factual. And again, with my experience in medicine and coming up through the medical establishment since I was a young medical student and then intern and resident in the Vanderbilt system, and also fellow with an NIH, research fellow doing my own research project with the National Institute of Health, National Institute of Dental and Craniofacial Research. I have watched, I have viewed, I have experienced the sometimes insanity of what has gone on within the medical system. Doesn't make sense sometimes how it works or how they try to make it work. Well, the same thing applies to this thing we call TMD, TMJ. It is the best example of Dr. Pearl's title, why we think we're getting good health care, insert dental care, and why we're usually wrong. Let's just insert dental care in that title. Because if the patient comes into your practice, doctor, complaining of pain around the head and neck that cannot be identified as derived from a tooth or periodontal area, you don't want anything to do with it. And you make this problem an orphan. It's an orphan disease. We have now currently a movement, and it is growing in intensity, it's growing in numbers, and I believe that in the very near future, you're going to hear much more about it than from me. And that is, the acronym for it is the Medical Dental integration, medical dental integration. Now, I've done an episode on that particular issue independently, but TMD being a medical problem, which only a doctor with some dental experience going through dental school can even hope to address, because the medical doctors with a medical degree, I can promise you, have no interest in treating a joint that's attached to the jaws and the teeth. And they, when faced with a patient that they suspect that their symptoms that they're describing may be coming from those joints, will immediately say, quote, "see your dentist." End of discussion. Like, end of discussion. Not do workup, not look at what they might be able to add to the mix or suggest. It's like, see your dentist. So you have been placed in a superior area. You have altitude when it comes to this disease, whether you like it or not. And the fact that it has been ignored and placed as an orphan in the general consensus, and I mean general consensus, of those 200,000 active dentists in the United States of America, is a huge problem, which is the problem we're trying to solve here. First, you have to get my compatriots, my fellow colleagues in dentistry, to take off the blinders, look broadly, listen to, the facts. That if you want to dispute it, that's fine. You can fact check all you'd like. And if you want to dispute it and contact me or anybody else to say that inflammation in these joints don't cause all these symptoms, go right ahead. I'd like to see you prove the point. I would love to see you prove that point, which is frankly not provable. But we can prove that inflammation within the temperament of the joint causes headaches, earaches, jaw pain, neck pain, ringing, fullness, dizziness, upper back and shoulder pain, and arm, hand, finger tingling and numbness. So making it an orphan disease is not the appropriate thing to do for my dental colleagues. Now, getting back to the acronym is now coming out as MDI, Medical Dental Integration. And we're seeing this lighting up across industries who are interested in promulgating good health care to a greater number of people. The best example I've heard recently is that Walmart is now increasing the number of their facilities, their stores that offer integrated medical and dental treatment in the same store. And they now have 2 new states, which just, I believe, started rolling this out in Arizona and Missouri. And they have also stores that have integrated medical dental offices. Also in Arkansas, Georgia, Illinois, and Texas, and are planning on having 75 more of these integrated medical dental offices in 2024, adding 75 more. So obviously they're adding these as rapidly as they can based on, I assume, whatever it takes to get this program going, not only size and hiring the medical and the medical and dental employees that need to staff these services. And then I've talked before on Pacific Dental, who actually, I believe, really started the whole concept of the mouth-body initiative, and trying to make it clear that the oral cavity and related structures are just part of the rest of the body and have an intuitive and severe, extreme value on how the rest of the body operates. And it's all connected, which it is. That's why in dental school, we all took basic sciences. And most of us who took the basic sciences just wanted to do the basic sciences so they could get in to the clinic so that they could learn how to be a tooth mechanic. And a few of us were really interested in the basic sciences, and certainly I was, and hoped that learning as much as possible about the basic sciences would make us a much better dental clinician, technician. And I think hopefully you can see where I'm going with that comment. And truly, I think most of the doctors who have been through dental school kind of, once they get through the basic sciences, ignore it, forget it, and spend the rest of their career focusing on dental mechanics. Just not to belittle it. That's not my point, to belittle it. My point is to just make it clear. And it would be, it would be a point to be made if I was going to write a book like Dr. Pearl did on why we think we're getting good dental care and we're not. That would be a chapter or two, because the average dentist, the vast majority of dentists, which I know my colleagues very well, basic sciences have no part in their pursuit of their practice. It's all about dental mechanics, which, my opinion, this is opinion now, we change from fact to opinion, is I think this is going to be changing here very rapidly. And the concept of the dentist being just a dental mechanic, we can teach others who have less broad training experience, focus training, to do a lot of the dental mechanics that we do. A good example would be hygiene. We started hygiene 50 years ago, training hygienists, 60 years ago, focusing just on hygienists to clean the teeth. Where, first of all, in the 40s and 50s, you didn't have hygienists. The dentist cleaned the teeth, and then he learned that he could train someone to just focus on that one area to do dental hygiene, what we call dental hygiene. And now we have a growing number of states that are approving and licensing dental staff members who can actually cut on teeth and do fillings, which I think is very, very appropriate, very needed to fill the service that's required to treat a growing number of the population. So this is what I have to say, and hopefully cajole you into taking a different point of view about TMD. The solution itself is quite simple. We figured out 13 years ago that if you decrease the inflammation within the temporomandibular joint, that all those symptoms go away. I wish I had a magic wand. It would have been really nice to have a magic wand that makes the inflammation go away. You wave the magic wand over the joint, and all of a sudden the inflammation decreases, and then the symptoms are gone. But we don't have a magic wand. The closest thing we have to a magic wand is a device that unloads the temporomandibular joint like a set of crutches unloads an inflamed knee. And if you have a very badly inflamed knee and decline to have injections or total knee reconstruction, the orthopedic surgeon will give you a set of crutches, and he would say, I promise you, if you get on these crutches in a relatively short period of time, the inflammation in the joint will decrease to the point where it doesn't hurt anymore. Now, with a set of crutches, obviously you're taking the total function out of the knee. You're not even working the knee. You're not putting any kind of load on the knee. You're not walking on that knee. It works out when it comes to the temporomandibular joint that actually using a device starting out 24/7 with this device for 2 months, which gets the inflammation down to the point, then you can drop back to using this device nighttime only in the vast majority of cases. So you start out full-time to get the inflammation down as soon as possible. And then after 2 months, 24/7, nighttime only, the rest of your life. 85% of the patients, that protocol works extremely well. 15% of the patients find they need to wear the device more during the day, but not 24/7. Why not 24/7 indefinitely? Because yes, eventually beyond 2 months, you can get super eruption of posterior teeth in adults, but not within the first 2 months. Again, all of this is discussed in detail in prior episodes of TMD Demystified. So let's give a little thought to eliminating TMD as an orphan disease. If you would like to learn the specifics, and it's not complicated, of the fact that inflammation within the temporomandibular joint creates all the symptoms. And when I say fact, I'm talking about the pathophysiology, the anatomy, how it occurs, the cell biology of how it occurs, that inflammation within the joint will directly drive all of those symptoms, because that's the issue. That's what's not understood. That's the conundrum, and that's, the blinders that everyone has, my dental colleagues have the blinders on, because they're not willing to look at the facts of the pathophysiology, the anatomy, the cell biology of how inflammation within this joint drives directly all those symptoms. Once you understand that, then it makes perfect sense that by unloading the joint with a device using a proper protocol will decrease the inflammation, thus decreasing the symptoms. So if you'd like to learn more about it, you can look directly on our website, www.urbanictmj.com. But we have our newest effort to create interest in doctors who want to use this service for their patients and not leave the disease itself as an orphan in your specialty, in your area of activity. We have a in-person seminar, which is scheduled for April 19th here in Nashville, Tennessee, in beautiful Franklin, just 10 miles south. Civil War town. There's plenty to do, and spending the weekend in Nashville, Franklin would be an enhancement to the seminar itself, which is going to occur on Friday, April the 19th. If you would like to learn more about this problem, you can contact me at tony@tmjservices.net. If you'd like to have this the seminar, if you'd like to schedule the seminar, register for the seminar, that can be done with our Director of Education, which is Dr. Naomi Williams. She can be reached at naomi@tmjservices.net. I think I've made the point complete. We don't want dentistry to have an orphan disease. I would like you to think about dentistry as a part of medicine. We are going to see medicine and dentistry integrated in the near future to a greater and greater degree. I'd like you to be part of that. With that being said, I look forward to our next discussion in a week. I am Tony Urbanic, and this is TMD Demystified.